Good morning, everyone. I'm John Kogan, the CEO of Performative, the online community for corporate finance, accounting, treasury, and related professionals. I'd like to welcome everyone this morning to our webinar entitled Innovative Budgeting and Planning, Driving Initiatives that Impact Profitability. To be successful, businesses need to be agile, flexible, decisive, especially when it comes to budgeting and financial planning, for programs whose funding always seems to be on or near the chopping block. Allion Science and Technology Corporation was able to hurdle those challenges and also achieve a significant reduction in overall planning cycle and effort, greater budgeting accuracy, and more confidence in strategic decision making. How they do this? By leveraging innovative tools and a demand-based approach to planning and forecasting. So today we're going to hear from the CFO of Allion Science and Technology, Barry Broaddus, as well as from two other folks who are truly steeped in the technology and the people and process aspects of budgeting, forecasting, and planning. So we're happy to have everyone along with us this morning. We certainly have a great event with wonderful educational content ahead of us, and why don't we go ahead and jump right in. First up, for those who are new to Performative, we'd like to welcome you and tell you a little bit about Performative. If you haven't spent much time with us, we're the largest and fastest growing online resource for senior finance and related professionals. We touch over 500,000 of those folks on a monthly basis, and the platform itself is simply a place to share knowledge. So we're not simply a news site. We're actually an interactive site where CFOs, corporate controllers, treasurers, and the like all come and ask one another questions, and they get answers not from Performative, but from their peers. It's a great singular place online, and it's all completely ad-free. There's no self-promotion, no selling at all. It's just a great business tool. And speaking as someone who's a 4-time CFO, it's something I wish I had had over the last 2 decades because it's just a wonderful tool and a great way to learn from your peers. So that's a quick word about Performative. And next, I'd like to give a few quick words on today's event. First off, a link to today's presentation and to the video recording of this webinar will be sent out to everyone within 24 hours of the event. And this presentation deck is actually already posted on performative.com. If you go there right now, go to performative.com/resources, or just navigate to the resource area on the site. You'll see it right there on the top. Like everything on Performative, it's free. Go grab it, share it, or feel free if you want to print it out and make notes as we go. Please do that. But you will also get an email with that link within 24 hours. Next up, we offer CPE credit for this event. Most folks probably pre-registered for CPE credit by checking the little CPE credit box when you registered. Easy enough. If you did not do that, all is not lost. Just contact Tanya Walsh. You can see her email address right there, twalsh@performative.com. She runs our CPE program, and she will make sure that we get you taken care of. Also, if you have any questions at all about CPE credits through Performative, please contact Tanya. She will get you straightened out. Also, we would like this to be an interactive event today. You will notice if you take a moment, on your GoToWebinar control panel, you have a little section there called Questions. We would love for you to ask questions during the event, and we will do our best to get to those questions during the event. If we don't, we'll do our best to follow up with you afterwards. But please ask questions at any time. Now, we will get to a panel discussion at the end of today's event. So we'll probably hold most, if not all, of the questions until that time. But please feel free to ask questions as we go, as they come to you, and then we'll get to them during the panel discussion at the end of the webinar. And finally, you will be asked to take a short survey when you leave today's webinar. It takes all of 60 seconds, and we would love your feedback. We like to know what we can do better the next time, so we're always improving. So if you would do us a big favor, take that 60 seconds. That would be wonderful, and that will help us always make our next event better than the last one. Also, on that short survey, we make it very easy, literally the click of a mouse, for you to request that we connect you with any of today's speakers. we're happy to do that. And it's really easy to request that when you take the survey. So please feel free, and then we will connect you with the speakers of your choice. So feel free to take advantage of that. And that's it for the preamble on today's event. So without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and get us into our first speaker, and I'm going to introduce him. His name is Carr Phillips, and he is the Industry Marketing Senior Director of the Professional Services Group at SAP. Carr is the SAP Industry Marketing Senior Director for the professional services industry, where he has global responsibility for working with the regional industry principals to build industry business planning, go-to-market strategies, thought leadership, and industry sales and support. Carr has over 23 years of experience in software and consulting organizations, including SAP, PeopleSoft, Hyperion, NICU, KPMG, and Peterson Consulting, which is now Navigant. So with that, Carr, please take it away.
Thank you, John, for that kind introduction, and thanks to everyone who is joining us here today on this webinar. So to set up the discussion for today, I wanted to take a minute and walk through a high-level overview of the planning consolidation framework. For many of you, you live this every day, but it's helpful to have a common point of view for us to start with, even if it is overly simplified. So the first step in this planning and execution and consolidation framework is communication. You need to communicate top-down targets, timelines, and guidelines for everyone that is involved in the process. The second step is collection. This is where you collaboratively create plans and forecasts according to the corporate guidelines you've just outlined. Planning can be anything from strategic planning to production forecasts, financial impact, research and development, capital expenditure, headcount and staffing, operational expense, cash flow planning. And another area is performing rolling forecasts and continuing planning, as well as integrated SOX-compliant financial statement modeling. The third step is analysis phase, where you consolidate the data and model multiple scenarios. This can include things like intercompany matching, reconciliations, intercompany eliminations, management consolidations, roll-ups, and reporting, as well as legal and statutory consolidations. And finally, there's the report out phase, where you generate and distribute reports and plan as well as perform, and analyze variances to drive reforecasts. These can be ad hoc and formal reporting, as well as variance analysis, root cause analysis, and driver analysis on production, expenses, etc. I work closely with many of our professional services customers to understand their business challenges. What I hear most from people like you are that budget cycles are way too long, that they have difficulty in modeling the anticipated resource needs and revenue forecasts for upcoming periods, that you need to improve the planning accuracy and reduce associated costs, that there's a general lack of confidence in the organization in regards to some of the financial results and the reports that we're looking at. And there's a need to quickly model potential business strategies and to take actions on plans that maximize the value. So why is this? Among many other reasons, two contributing factors are the use of different tools and processes to do your planning, to do your consolidating, and to do your reporting. And all of these tools use both structured and unstructured data that is pulled from a wide range of systems across the enterprise. Customers that, like you, have told us that these challenges and issues have significant impact on your ability to get the visibility and operational financial performance you need as fast as you need it, and in the time you need to be able to make adjustments to any changes in market conditions. A couple of key takeaways for you to consider. First up, your company has special needs, and thus it needs and deserves a vertical solution. So, if, for instance, people organizations like professional service firms are very different in how they organize and operate than an asset-intensive industry. Working with our customers, we have found that they want their tools to have built-in industry standard dimensions and KPIs, sample business rules and logic, sample allocations, dynamic reports, and input forms that are relevant to their industry. And I'll give a more specific example on the next slide, but nothing will be 100% fit. But providing a vertical solution goes a long way to reducing the effort and risk for a project like this. The second takeaway is you want a partner who understands your issues and will actively help you reach your planning and consolidation goals. Seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it? But it is important to select a partner who is open to collaborating and co-innovating with you, one that is truly open to supporting your business needs and is committed to your success. And finally, assess your partners carefully because they're the ones who, long term, will help you with these 2 points. This goes without saying, as I'm sure you're already evaluating your existing and potential partners to understand the risk and cost of working with them on any potential project. I spoke about the typical planning and consolidation framework, which is used by most companies to perform financial planning and forecasting. That said, there are important differences in how this framework is applied in different industries. In the professional services industry, for example, firms need to be able to plan by project, by client, by service line, and by role. So what does that mean? How does that work? First, the professional services firm, the main business operation is the selling and delivering of project-based services. In this process chart, a typical professional services engagement management lifecycle starts with a proposal, then works through the project setup, resource assignment, service delivery, and then invoicing and collections process. All of these activities generate project, client, service line, and role data that you need in order to perform the planning consolidation process. A couple of specific examples within this process. For instance, the rate model. You would need to set standard hours or days or standard bill and cost rates, burden rates, and currency rates for each of your roles in your organization. But each of these could vary by project, by client service, by client, and by service line. Another example would be the service director. That person would need to be able to allocate headcount based on standard hours and days. Again, this could be done by project, by client, by service line, or by role. And finally, another example is the client manager. This person needs to be able to plan, validate, and update days per project per role based upon granular knowledge of the roles, the industry, and the utilization, as well as to establish client bill rates. In order to drive higher profitability for professional services firms, firms need to be able to plan and forecast, not just on an enterprise-wide operations level, but be able to plan and forecast at the project, client, and service line and role level in order to drive profitability and improve profitability. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to your questions at the end of the webinar. Back to you, John.
Thanks. Thank you for that, Carr. Thanks for that quick intro to what's going to be the longest section of today's presentation, which is hearing from Barry Broaddus. But before we get into that, since this is a CPE garnering event, we need to go through two polling questions, as I mentioned up front, and I'm going to launch the first of the two polling questions right now, which you'll see on your screen right now. So these polling questions aren't a test of what you're seeing. They're actually a way for us to get the pulse of the folks who are online today and understand what tools you're using in the planning process, and we will revisit these poll results when we get to the Q&A panel session at the end of today's webinar. And I would also note, even if you're not here for CPE credit, please take just 10 seconds, take a look at that question, and go ahead and give us your answer. All of these poll questions today are anonymized. We're just interested in seeing where the audience stands in terms of these few questions that we'll be asking today. I will also take a moment to remind folks, please ask questions as we go, and we'll do our level best to get to them when we get to the Q&A portion of today's webinar. I'll give about 5 more seconds, and then we'll go ahead and close this down and move on to our next speaker. Okay, so with that, I'm going to close the poll, and we'll go ahead and hop into our next speaker. It's my pleasure to introduce Barry Broaddus, who is the acting CFO of Alliance Science and Technology. Barry brings over 25 years of progressive business and financial management experience with technology-based companies, providing products and services to the federal government and commercial marketplace. He currently serves as the Chief Financial Officer, acting at Alliance Science and Technology. Barry is responsible for the direction of Alliance financial operations, financial management reporting, SEC and other external reporting requirements, financial systems, budgeting, planning, and forecasting functions. Prior to joining Alliance, Barry served as VP and Business Controller at Science Applications International Corporation, or SAIC, where he was responsible for the financial oversight of the Energy, Environment, and Infrastructure Business Unit. Prior to SAIC, Barry was the CFO for BrainBench, Inc., and at EDS, he served as the Military Business Unit Controller. So that's quite a bit of fantastic experience. And Barry, it's our pleasure to have you with us this morning.
All right, thanks, John. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate everybody for hanging in there and signing on for today's presentation. I hope that you find this is helpful. And really the main reason that I'd like to present today is to talk about how our company has used SAP's BPC product to really transform how our company does all of our budgeting and planning, as well as our forecasting and management reporting. And so I look forward to your questions as we get through the presentation. All right. Going on to just a bit of an overview of our company. Our company is headquartered in McLean, Virginia. We're in the aerospace and defense business industry. And some of the products and services that we provide our customers are really high-end engineering, naval architecture, marine engineering, and that is really where we do ship design for the U.S. Navy and navies across the world. We have a very sophisticated modeling and simulation business, and this is where we do a lot of 3D simulations, training for the U.S. government, specifically for the Army and the Navy, Air Force, and some with the Marine Corps as well. We also do a lot of technology design, integration, and assessments for our customers, and general consulting services, and typically those are on the high-end side of the consulting. We're not a CETA contractor. We do a lot of very high-end engineering, high-end consulting. What we like to think of our company as folks that are kind of nerds and really into the technical nature of our business. If you look at our customers, we have primarily the U.S. Navy, who we do the naval architecture and marine engineering work for. Air Force, we do a lot of modeling and engineering simulations for them. The Army, again, we do a lot of modeling and simulation work for that, for the Army, as well as we do those type of activities for DoD and U.S. government agencies. We also do some commercial work and international work. Most of our international work has to do with our naval architecture and marine engineering business. Our revenues are approximately $800 million per year. We have about 300 employees. And we are an employee-owned company, and so we all are employee owners and take special pride and care about the work that we do every day. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the challenges and opportunities that we had here at Alion with our legacy systems. And like most companies, the manual legacy processes that we had as we kind of grew as a company from a $100 million company into a much larger $800 million company just didn't support the business structure and the business needs that we had. We needed to do something. And when you look at our month-end closing process, it was very long, very cumbersome, and just very limiting as far as what we could do. As far as our financial results, it took a long time to get those financial results processed and into the hands of first-line management and senior management as well. We had very limited visibility into what was going on in the company. And then our financial reports did not provide, were not really standardized, and we didn't produce those in this timely fashion. So we knew that we had to do something, and we went through a lengthy process to figure out, well, what do we do? What are we going to replace these Excel spreadsheets and other tools that we had in something that was a lot more elegant and time responsive? And as we looked at that, we had really the main objective is just to implement a new tool and new processes along with implementing tool, because you can have a great tool, but you have to change your processes to adapt to the new tool as well. And again, that was the reason we wanted to do that was to be able to provide more timely and accurate financial information, and so management could make better decisions. And we'll talk a little bit more about the results of our activities a little bit later on. Under the selection implementation bullet, if we could go 1-4, John. Okay. Under the selection and let's see, go up one. There we go. Okay. Selection and implementation. Sorry about that. Of our planning and consolidation platform. We've done a number of major changes, which you can see there. We've implemented the newest versions of the tool, and we did the last one in March of 2012. So just a couple of months ago, and in this year, in fact, this month, we're implementing a number of planning and forecasting changes. And I'm going to talk about each one of these, so hopefully you'll get a good flavor of all the different things that we've done over the last few years. So let's talk a little bit about how we use the tool, BPC. And as you may imagine, we use it for some of the basic things like our annual planning and budgeting process. So everything that we do related to planning and budgeting basically is done in this tool, as well as all the reporting that we have from those activities. We also do our quarterly 18-month rolling forecast, which is something that we recently implemented. We do all of our internal financial management reports from the line organization that's actually working the contracts all the way up to our executive team, as well as our internal and external financial reporting. And this is for our board of directors and our investors. We produce all of those reports and things out of this particular tool. We, as a government contractor, we're very interested in our indirect rate management, and that is having to do with our overhead rates, our G&A rates, fringe rates, and what we call a material handling rate. And all of those different indirect rates are managed through this particular tool. And then all of our ad hoc analysis and reporting that we do. If we have some type of activity that we want to spend more time on and think about, we produce all the reports and mine all of the information out of this particular tool. So it's a variety of different things, and we found that it works very well. As far as the tool is concerned, it basically mirrors Alion's organizational structure from our very basic job numbers, which is at the lowest level of the company. That's where the programs and the contracts are being executed, all the way up to the total Alion. We find it's a very flexible tool, easy to make significant changes. And a lot of times, I'm sure your company is like ours. We have big work changes that come along either at the beginning of the year, during the planning process, or in the middle of the year. And this tool makes it very easy for us to adapt our reporting to the new organization. And right now, we just pretty much do P&L reporting, and the different activities that I talked about. And we don't do balance sheet and cash flow reporting out of the tool right now, but that's something that we're certainly looking to do in the future. So I'm going to go through this very quickly. This is an overview of our planning and forecasting process. And like most companies, we start off the planning process with setting our strategy and our goals for the particular year. And through that, we establish targets. And some of those are financial targets. Some are non-financial targets. So for example, if we want to get into a new market or expand a current market, that's part of the targeting process as well. And from the targets that we need to go after to support the strategic plan, we develop operational plans. And the operational plans are what actually go into the tool. And most of, again, those are financial in nature, but they don't actually have to be. And then we manage to those plans throughout the year. And then if you go down to the second tier of items there, we analyze the results as we go through the year. And once a quarter, we do our 18-month rolling forecast. We do, again, that all in the tool. And we look at, a variety of financial and non-financial metrics to, build up our forecast. And some of those are wins and delays on programs that we're going after, new business. We look at headcount, turnover, time sold, which is an efficiency metric that we use to make sure we understand how our labor is being performed. We evaluate the various scenarios and identify any contingencies that we need to take place, consolidate those results, and evaluate whatever the required action items are. And that all goes into our forecast. And you can see we take corrective actions, change targets if we need to, and we make sure that we communicate all that across the organization. So what we wanted to do is replicate these activities in our tool, which we have been, I think, very successful in doing. So when we look at some of our planning and forecasting goals, and I'm going to concentrate on those type of activities because this is really where we made the biggest transformation using this tool. We really wanted to reduce the effort it takes to produce our plans and forecasts. We wanted to shorten up that cycle time so that the planning and forecasting were much more relevant. Before we implemented this tool and some of the changes that we've made, our planning process would take up to 4.5 months. We've shortened that down to about a 6-week period. We're looking to shorten that even further to a 3-week period. And some of the activities that were going on right now, we're looking to make those changes. That's all to make sure that the information that's in the plan is as current and relevant as we possibly can. We wanted to produce and provide the line with a common tool to actually develop the plans and the quarterly forecast, get away from individual spreadsheets and roll-ups that the line was using, as well as folks here at corporate. And I think we were very successful at that. We wanted to directly link our backlog and pipeline systems into the planning and forecasting applications, and we're in the process of really fine-tuning that now, and it's working very well. We also wanted to provide better training and guidance to the overall planning process, and that's something that my team has been doing. And most importantly, why are we doing all this? It's really so our organization, from a line perspective and executive management team, can make better informed decisions. And to provide the organization with the best information they can so they can make those informed decisions in a timely fashion. We also to manage and better understand our risk and better predict and manage our indirect rates, which are our crown jewels in the defense industry. Okay, so we'll go on to how we really implemented these tools. And I think that the one thing that was very impressive with both our planning and our budgeting applications, we did this in a very rapid fashion. And if you look at under the planning and budgeting application bullet, the first thing we did there is we completely overhauled how Lion did its planning and budgeting. We changed the methodology, we changed the process, we changed the application. And at the core of that was this DPC tool, which we found very flexible and great to use. So we were able to transform the organization from using a very manual process to a highly automated process, which saved time and also made it so it's a more dynamic solution, so we could go and make changes quickly and update the plans if we didn't come out to quite the right answer that we had expected, and so that was very helpful. We also enhanced the financial reporting capabilities and the reports that we get out of the tool. And from a solution perspective, we went from a whiteboard, here's what we want to do, to implementation in about 3 months. And so it was quite a feat. And we used the folks from Keene, which is now part of NTT, and they were very instrumental and a vital part of our team to make this happen. But I think the really impressive thing is that we went from, here's what we want to do, and we whiteboarded it out. We actually implemented it in really about a 3-month time frame, which I think is a great for the tool as well as our team, and and the buy-in that we got from our team. Now, SAP's role is when we had this solution, they helped us go through and fine-tune and reconfigure our servers so the system was running at its optimal peak. And this was really critical because we had to do a lot of changes from an infrastructure perspective to make sure that things were running right. We didn't have to buy new hardware or put in different networks. We just needed to fine-tune how the servers were actually working. Our company didn't have the expertise to do that, and SAP stepped in and helped us do that. And it was very welcomed and really helped the end user because it cut down on the amount of response time quite substantially. From the forecasting application, and when I first joined the line, which was about 4 years ago, we didn't have an application for forecasting. We really didn't do forecasting in a very sophisticated manner at all. It was basically done on Excel spreadsheets. We didn't really have any formal reporting. We couldn't consolidate, and when we did a forecast, it was only in a 3-month view. And so what we did is we worked from a team perspective to develop a process and a methodology using the DPC tool to create a forecasting application. And we went from a whiteboard, and here's what we want to do, to actually implementing that in about 6 weeks. And to this day, we still use that same application. We've made some tweaks to it and improved it, but the core application really hasn't changed since we implemented this. And again, Keen was instrumental in helping us do that. And so that's when you talk about implementing something in 6 weeks, from whiteboard to actually using the system, and that that encompasses UAT and our internal testing and the documenting and et cetera. I think that's impressive. So the takeaway from that is that the tool is very flexible. It's easy to use, easy to make significant changes, and we are very very pleased with the performance of the tool. And Keen was a critical member of our team and very helpful from a success perspective, from both helping us manage through the project, doing a lot of work towards change management and helping manage these significant changes to the organization, and helping us with the application. So I just wanted to give you just a quick overview of how our system works. And if you look at the lower right-hand side of the slide, you'll see a variety of whole system designs there that I put into the slide. And we've got a contract system here at Alliant. We have our general ledger, our CRM system, HR system, and then the VPC tool. And each one of those tools are different systems. They're on different platforms. And what we've done is we've created what we call the Alliant Data Warehouse, and we pull in key information from each one of those. And I have examples of some of the information that we use from each of those systems. And we pull that information into this Alliant Data Warehouse. And if you go to the upper right-hand side of the slide, you'll see our VPC data warehouse. Basically, that's a series of queries that we run against the data warehouse, and it pulls the key information from each of the contract systems, our general ledger, our CRM system, HR system, as well as the historical information in our VPC. And we pull that all the way into the warehouse, and then that gets pushed down to our actual tool. And this is the tool where we do all of our management reporting and our planning, our forecasting, our ad hoc analysis. So we can use this tool as the conduit to do all types of various financial analysis and reporting, and it's worked very well. And if you look at the next step, one of the things that we want to do is add on the Excelsius tool so we can do online dashboarding and what if, and that's kind of the future state. So this is kind of an overview of how the whole thing kind of works together. And that's my presentation, subject to your questions during the question and answer period. I appreciate your time and your listening to this today, and I hope that this was helpful for you.
Thank you so much, Barry. Now, Barry, are you running back into a board meeting, or are you going to be able to stay with us into the Q&A?
Actually, I need to head back to the meeting, and so Kevin Humphreys from our team, he is very familiar with what we're doing and uses the tool, is going to sit in and answer questions. And if there's a particular question that he can't answer, then we'll try to communicate that back to you, John, with the response. Okay?
Gotcha. Sounds great. Thank you so much for giving us your time, and good luck with your board meeting.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Next up, I would like to introduce Sarah Bergseth. She is a solution implementation partner at NTT Data, whom Barry was referring to as Keen in his presentation, but he mentioned it now, NTT Data. Sarah is the global lead of the EPM practice at NTT Data Americas. For 18 years, she has worked with the professional services and software industries and has focused on providing optimized business processes and improved performance and results through EPM, BI, and data warehousing technologies. Prior to joining NTT Data, Sarah was a key member of the consulting and training organization at OutlookSoft Corporation, which was acquired by SAP in 2007. Sarah has taught thousands of people on EPM and BI applications, has written and contributed to courseware manuals, white papers, and trade books, and has spoken at dozens of technical conferences and webcasts. And I guess this is now one of them. So Sarah, welcome.
Thank you, John. Hello, everyone. As John said, I lead the EPM team within the BI, Analytics, and Performance Management practice at NTT Data. NTT Data is a top 10 global IT services provider and an SAP partner, and we provide consulting, managed services, projects, outsourcing, and cloud-based solutions to mid-size and large-size enterprises in all major industries. We operate with over 57,000 employees across 35 countries and are based out of Tokyo. We have a very strong SAP EPM team which focuses on the SAP EPM portfolio of products with core capabilities and a center of excellence focused on SAP BPC. So I'd like to share with you some of our perspectives as it relates to Allian and to their successes with their BPC solutions. We've been working with Allian now since the beginning of their implementation, back when the product was OutlookSoft. We were able to help with their initial implementation of BPC and have been involved in all subsequent phases and implementations. When they first installed BPC, we were able to quickly implement a solution in approximately 3 months, as Barry described. And instead of addressing all of their business challenges and needs up front on the first round, we were able to address one general area of their business. And this gave us the opportunity to improve their planning and budgeting processes right away with a core set of requirements. And we could get some pretty significant improvements out to the business sooner rather than later. We see this from time to time when organizations try to address all of their business requirements within a single drawn-out project. We find that it's much more manageable and with decreased risk and an ability to provide process optimizations and improvements sooner rather than later when you apply a phased approach to these performance management solutions. So we were involved in the various phases of their development, starting from the requirements gathering phase into the creation of a solid design, then through the implementation, and then throughout the training of users, the deployment, and then finally through their go-live support. We were able to have some continuity across the team who was involved in the projects, and this helped us to provide the best level of support since we had a good understanding of their business processes, the industry nuances that are involved with their business, and just knowing how they work. Throughout the implementation, we were aware of upcoming product releases and functionality, and so we were very mindful of design implications and how best to design certain functionality so that we could avoid rework of any of the components of the application. Also, we kept the future phases and new requirements in mind as well, so that when we did get to those phases, we were able to easily build in the requirements without rework or having to scrap any of the initial development. So, for example, we knew that the 18-month rolling forecast functionality was coming up in a later phase, and so we were able to incorporate that into the design so that we could add to their existing system in the best possible way. Another key to our success in working with Allian was our knowledge of their business and the issues that they were facing. They had unique requirements from a planning perspective, which included the need to plan based upon sources of revenue and contracts, and then to understand those risks associated with the various contracts and associated revenue, which is something that you see in defense contracting. So we had the BPC expertise covered from our history with the product and coming from OutlookSoft, but we also had experience in the defense and public sector industries, and so we could easily work with them to model the changes that they needed to apply to their processes. And again, with the continuity that we were able to bring to the project and to the phases over the years, the consultants who were on the ground and were working with them, they understood their business very well, and so we could maximize our resources since we had expertise not only with the technology in BPC, but also in their specific business and related processes. Also, we were able to use our long-standing relationship with SAP, there we go, to benefit Allian when and where it made sense. So Allian's not a full SAP shop, and they could use some help in understanding not only the product roadmap as it related to BPC, but also with understanding other SAP products and product families and how to potentially use them in their solutions. So when it made sense, we enlisted the help of SAP and were able to involve them in some of the technical discussions and configurations that Barry mentioned, but then also in planning for upcoming releases and for future upgrades. And finally, our partnership with Allian was a true partnership in that their success has equaled our success. And we worked through the rollout of their solutions over the years right alongside them. As I mentioned earlier, we were very mindful of keeping future phases and development in mind as we worked through requirements, design, and the implementation of certain applications. We were focused heavily on the business improvements that we were making and the value that was being presented to their business, and not just the implementation of the technology. We've been motivated to keep their performance up to spec and to ensure that we're maximizing the technology for them as much as we can. And if you couple that with the long-term relationship and the continuity that we've been able to provide over the years and how great it's been working with Barry and his team, it just really has been a successful partnership and a great experience working with them. And we hope to continue with that relationship for years to come. Alrighty, so that concludes my portion of the presentation. Thank you all for your time.
Great. Thank you very much, Sarah. So next up, we have the second of our 2 polling questions, and we're going to go ahead and jump into the Q&A. So once again, if you're here for CPE credit, you need to take this polling question. If you're not here for CPE credit, we'd still love to know what the biggest challenges are at your company around financial planning, people, process, technology, or something else. And once again, we will revisit the answers to this and the other earlier poll question as soon as we're done with this poll question. And then we will get into the questions. And we've got a nice pile of questions going on here, so keep them coming. We'll do our best to get to as many of these as we can in the time we've got today, and we'll get there in just a moment. So once again, if you do have a question, please go ahead and ask it through the question area in your GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll hop right in. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close down this second poll. Go ahead and get your answer in the next few seconds, if you will, and we'll go ahead and move on to the Q&A. And the first thing we'll do, actually, is focus the first question on the first poll question. So let's take a look at the results, which I'm sharing out with everyone right now. And this will probably come as no surprise to anyone, but Cara, I'm going to ask you, we asked what the primary technology or tool is in the company's financial planning process. And I don't know, I mean, obviously Excel is used all over the place. I don't know if I've ever seen it this tilted towards Excel, though. Wow, that's a lot of Excel users. Is this, or a lot of companies using Excel, is this fairly typical from what you see? Carr,
John, I'm sorry, did you direct that to me, Carr?
Yes, I did.
Okay, sorry, I thought I heard Sarah. Actually, we do see it. This does seem trending a little bit high, but obviously Excel and spreadsheets are the primary way the planning and consolidation efforts are done. I think that's, from a end user standpoint, that's the tool they're most familiar with, they're most comfortable with, so they want to be able to do the things they want to be able to do within that. So our challenge has always been to how do we create that user interface, that familiar Excel spreadsheet feel, and bring it into a tool that can be used across all these different processes.
Gotcha. And Sarah, is this reasonably typical when you guys are working with new clients that they're most frequently coming off of an Excel-based planning process?
Yes, it's actually very common. Again, I don't think I've seen it slanted this heavily towards Excel, but it's because it's so easily to model within Excel, because everyone, the expertise is there within finance organizations. It gives people ultimate flexibility within their organizations, absolutely. And it's why the BPC product is such a good application to move into, because you can take advantage of that Excel functionality. You can build models, existing models, into the BPC tool, which is very common. So yes, absolutely.
Gotcha. Now, Kevin Humphreys, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
All right. So Kevin, welcome. And Kevin is a finance manager at Alliant. Is that correct?
Yes.
Wonderful. So a couple questions about this. Number one, was Alliant primarily on Excel before you moved to BPC?
Well, I wasn't part of Alliant at the time, but I believe we were, yes.
And
individual models and manual adding them up.
Gotcha. And I'm curious, always curious, so now that you've implemented what sounds like a really successful new platform, does your finance organization still use Excel? And when and where? And, where have you found it appropriate and useful versus where has it really made sense to get folks off of Excel and into a centralized platform?
Well, most of all the planning and budgeting, all of that is all through the BPC tool. So we don't, there's no manual roll-up at all anymore at all.
Gotcha.
So it's there's individual people using Excel, obviously, but nothing for planning or forecasting or any type of roll-up.
Yep. Now, Kevin, another question for you. Align is on a rolling forecast. It sounds like that was actually part of the sort of staged implementation of the BPC platform. Were you there at Align for that transition?
Oh, yes. We had a 12-month, well, not even 12-month, we just had a fiscal year forecast before, and now we're like I said, going to the rolling 18 months so we get a good view and hopefully cut down even more on our budgeting and planning, since by the time we get to budgeting and planning time, we'll have good numbers already in our rolling forecast. So we have yet to see how that will happen. That will take place next year at our next budgeting, but that's our hope.
Gotcha. And have you guys done a rolling forecast, like a live rolling forecast?
No, we're just about to, so this is all brand new for us.
Okay. Well, I do have a question from the audience about the rolling forecast. I know there's a lot of interest in people transitioning to rolling forecasts in general. And one of the top questions is, how do you compensate and measure people? It used to be really easy when everything was based on the budget. You did one budget per year, and it was measured 12 months, and at the end of 12 months, you would see how people performed against the budget. But on the rolling forecast, now it seems like you have companies are placing more importance on the forecasting process, which continues to look out 12 months, 18 months. How do you measure people? Are the targets moving? How's that going to work?
Well, we always compare still against budget and also against forecast in our reporting. Now, budget becomes less important the further along in the fiscal year we go, but that's always a measurement that we will have for performance and so forth. So we'll see how it goes with 18 months, but we're very interested in those quarters out front that we haven't captured before due to some requirements we have and the cash forecasting and so forth. So we've always been comparing against forecast and budget, and it works fairly well. I mean, it lets you narrow down what organizations are having problems with either forecasting or with their budgeting, so you can when compared to the actual. So it's a very useful tool to tighten up different organizations that might be struggling.
Gotcha. Now, Carr, are you guys at SAP seeing seeing many companies move to rolling forecasts, or is the interest, heightened recently around rolling forecasts? What are you seeing there?
I think for our customers, we definitely are seeing strong interest in it. I'm not sure that we're seeing necessarily significantly more these days, but it has always been a strong driver for adopting these kinds of solutions. But yes, we definitely hear customers wanting to be able to do this and having challenges doing that.
Mm-hmm. And Sarah, what about for your part at NTT? Are you guys helping more customers do rolling forecast implementations, or is it still more smoke than fire right now?
Absolutely. Rolling forecast is always a hot topic. Even if people aren't there today, that's where everyone wants to get to tomorrow. And so the approach that Align has taken to gradually add this functionality in over the years is very common. We see this in a phased approach, and it's good to know what the future state, what the goal is, because it can be, you can take that into consideration in earlier phases of development.
Mm-hmm. Now, Kevin, is your BPC platform hooked directly into your ERP at all, or is it does it pull exclusively from that data warehouse that looked like it was hooked onto the other data warehouse at Align?
I'm not too sure of the technicalities, but I believe, as Barry's slide showed, into the data warehouse, that it straight from those different servers, our ERP that we have, the general ledger and HR and contracts databases. Mm-hmm. Not the person, but
I got you. Not trying to put you on the spot. Let me actually redirect here to Sarah first. Sarah, is it most common when people are putting in a system like this that they do build a data warehouse, or do they even need to build a, I mean, like, is it a requirement to build a data warehouse, which can be a major project in and of itself?
Yeah, that's a great question, and you're absolutely right in terms of data warehouse project being, a huge implementation. Usually we see those being, years, as opposed to BPC implementations where they tend to be months, more similar to Alliance timeframe. The good thing about BPC is that you have lots of options in terms of sourcing the data, and so you're not required to have, the SAP ERP system. Although obviously you can, but you can use any type of source and can track that then within the application very easily. So so it's more common that we that folks that we're creating connections to various sources, multiple sources, as opposed to a single data warehouse for an application.
Yep, gotcha. Kevin, back to you. We've got a number of questions regarding the actual forecasting process itself and who does what, when, and where. So regarding inputs, do multiple managers within Alliant have direct access to their specific info? Is it centralized within a finance group or decentralized out into the business units? How do you guys manage that process?
Well, each finance or business person has access to their numbers and their numbers only, as the security is built in that you can only see what you were given authority to see, and so they have direct access to their numbers and input it directly into the templates that we've created for the forecasting, and same with the budgeting process as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that is, pardon me, pushed out into the operating units when it comes to actually building their forecasts.
That's correct. All from the same templates, and but down to the line managers.
Gotcha. And is your process more bottoms up or tops down?
Well, the forecasting is a little bit more of a high-level view, but our budgeting process is by contract. It goes down to our division, and that's a quite detailed view that we get. Now, the 18-month rolling forecast that we're rolled out, that's going to be a lot more detailed, but BPC offers us a way to you don't have to go person by person, so we're not as down in the weeds like that, but we do have a lot of detail that we can pull in on a contract by contract basis.
So a question for Carr, does the tool allow for greater degrees of abstraction maybe as you go out in the future and you get away, when you're 1 quarter away, you got great detail. When you're 6 quarters away, not so great. Is it a relatively straightforward thing to replace really detailed numbers with higher level assumptions, et cetera?
Absolutely. As you start to create your models, longer-term models, obviously you can abstract up to a higher level of summarization. So absolutely, you can do that.
Okay. So another question for Kevin, for starters here. Have you faced any limitation in the flexibility of the platform, the number of KPIs you can create, et cetera, or is it pretty much at your beck and call, and the only limit is time and imagination?
Oh, it's very open. You can do a lot. That's one thing that amazed me when I came in to the company. It just really, you can customize anything you want in it. You can pull specific numbers out or large, vast amounts of data. It's very, very flexible. You build it, and it's good to go, and you can easily change the time periods that you want to look at, the organizations. You can go up and down the hierarchy very, very easily. I was kind of amazed when I came in to see how much flexibility there was with it.
Now, is there similar flexibility pushed out to the operating units? Can a financial analyst or one of your BUs, what if to their heart's content? And
they can, as long they can see their information. Again, we have different levels of security, but they can certainly do the exact same thing that I can do it in the FP&A organization.
Mm-hmm. And another question for Kevin. Do you use external data sources as drivers within the model, or is it all internally driven? In other words, do you go out for, I don't know, economic growth rates or other estimates that get pulled into the tool automatically, or is it all sort of manually entered and managed by the team there?
No, we don't. We don't import any outside information to it. If we, we'll obviously do research on things like what we think is happening with inflation and what type of merit it will have, and so forth. And we're set up that it's really just literally a key in one place, and it takes care of that.
Okay. Okay, great. Another question for Kevin. What did the company do? And I know it sounds like you maybe came in a little late on some of the earlier stages of this process, but what made this transition to the new platform so successful? I mean, gosh, you have a big company, and it sounds like the timelines were incredibly short. I mean, amazingly short. I don't think I've ever heard of that short a timeline for a company of your size on a project this big. How did you pull that off?
Well, like I said, I wasn't here, but it did seem to go very quickly and very smooth. It's a very flexible tool, and it is in Excel, so you can set things up and mock them up very easily yourself, and then we let the brains of the operations and the consultants fill the rest in behind the scenes. I mean, before it was a person-by-person budget build-up for the budget, which is very painful, and then we implemented what we call sources of revenue method, which is really more on a contract basis, and it just was a lot easier, and import all the data that's in BPM, the historical data, uploads, and then you start your planning with legitimate actual data that you can view. So it really made a big difference in how the approach worked.
And Sarah, were you there during the implementation phase?
Yeah, I was part of the organization at that point. It actually is pretty typical to have that short of a timeline for these types of applications. And again, a lot of it is to, you're not building out all of the functionality that's going to be required of the system, but try to get significant chunks in a phased approach. And as Barry mentioned, we went from the whiteboard. We worked, consultants worked very closely with the business, which is key to these implementations. Also, the rapid development approach is part of our own implementation methodology and our best practices. It's not your typical IT waterfall project. This is a project where the business is part of it every step of the way. Can see the system being developed as it's happening to provide instant feedback on what they're seeing. So it's definitely, as I said, not your typical IT project, but in this case we were very successful in rolling it out quickly and with a big bang for your buck right away.
Gotcha. And I hate to say it, we actually have a bunch more questions. Can I ask whether we can work with Carr and Sarah and Kevin to see if we can address some of these other questions after the program is over and at least post them out on Performative where everyone can see them? Would you guys be game for that?
Great. We'd be happy to work with you on getting the answers back to everyone's questions.
Of course. Absolutely.
All right. Appreciate that. And Kevin, I'm sure you're busy as heck, but would we be able to reach out to you with a couple specific questions and make it quick and easy? Okay, that would be great. Thank you. Well, at this point, and being mindful of everyone's time, we've got about 1 minute left here. So I would like to go ahead and get into the final part of the webinar, which is thanking everyone and also talking about some next steps here. So first off, we'd love to thank SAP, who sponsored this event and also helped connect us with the speakers today. Just wonderful content. Great to hear from a couple folks at a company that's had great success in helping manage and even drive its growth through the use of people, process, and technology. So thanks to SAP. Thanks, of course, to the speakers, Carr, Sarah, Kevin, and Barry in absentia. Thanks to you guys for your time and attention this morning. Greatly appreciated. And then finally, of course, thanks to everyone who